Welcome to another episode of We Don't Die. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the international best-selling book called We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. And just a reminder, our home base is wedon'tdie.com, where you can always find our free Sunday gathering inspirational service with medium demonstration included. We offer medium classes. We've got a huge Facebook community. I've got a Patreon community where you can get hundreds and hundreds of episodes and so much more. Lots of good things at wedon'tdie.com. So I want to introduce you to our guest today. Today we have Joshua Lewis, who has spent many years studying clairvoyance and has reconnected people with their deceased loved ones. But wait, there's more. He is also the author of the book, Finding Hope in the Afterlife. And he's the creator of the H.O.P.E Spirit Box app and HSB Pro computer program, which utilizes instrumental transcommunication along with users' intuitive abilities to communicate with your loved ones in the afterlife. Joshua also hosts an extremely popular YouTube channel called H.O.P.E Paranormal. There's so much more, but we're going to let him tell you in his own words. You can find out more about him at hopeparanormal.com. Joshua, welcome to We Don't Die Radio.
Thank you, Sandra. I'm a big fan here. Very cool. It's an honor. Thank you.
Ditto, 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 ditto. So I'm so glad we're catching up. Let's hear about you. So the bonus of this is we don't know too much about each other. And so we get to just investigate. And so it's you and me and some lovely person watching or listening right now. So tell us a little bit about your history and what's a nice guy like you doing, getting involved with the afternight life, etc.
Thanks. My story is a little unconventional. I talk about it in my book. I did, over 20 years ago, I kind of had a rough past. I definitely got into trouble a lot. I had addiction in my life, and I had to kind of, deal with that and overcome that. And when I came out the other side of that, I was fortunate enough to make some money for myself and some businesses that I had started. And when I did that, I didn't want to say like I went into semi-retirement, but I started really focusing more on the spiritual side of what there is. And I've always felt a spirituality, but I was curious as to what was out there, what was going on. I felt a connection with my higher power, but I didn't understand, when I see these movies, I saw shows like Ghost Adventures and stuff. I didn't know what to really believe. Were they showing us stuff that was, dramatized, or was it real? So I just started taking myself out into the field, like, cemeteries and other places, abandoned, buildings, more of a paranormal kind of, investigation. And I started recording, very clear voices, saying my name, saying their name, saying the light, all kinds of other things that they were talking about. And there was no mistake that was real. So, I just kept going further, and I didn't realize that, I was going to get way more than I bargained for. And here I am over a decade later, and I'm doing some pretty amazing things. I give credit to the big guy upstairs, and that's how it is. But yeah, there was some really instrumental, some really key moments in my spirituality that kind of really helped me even before I even got into the investigation part of it. There were some really awesome things that happened to me.
Can you share some of those? We love
Sure. Yeah.
stories here.
Yeah, no, that's I talk about a lot of this in my book. I go into detail about it, but what the most pivotal experience for me, I think, was I was really at the bottom of when I was in my addiction. It was, I think, in like around 2099. It was 1999, 2000, and I was really down and out. I didn't know really where to turn. I kind of burned my bridges with my family, my friends. I remember I jumped in my car around 2 a.m. I was driving around almost aimlessly. and I wanted to confess my sins. I felt like I wanted to really just I wanted to find someone I could talk to. I was in my car, I was praying, and I was talking to myself, and I was talking to God, and I was saying, I really need help. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to turn, where to turn. And I saw this church, and of course the church is closed at 2 a.m. But there was this little grotto, this little like, spot that you can go in and put $1 in the candle section, and there's a couple little pews, kneelers. And so I walked in, and I was looking over at the rectory, where the priests are, and there's no lights, there's no one there. And so I walk into the grotto. There's the Blessed Mother with the statue and the baby Jesus, and I put the $1 in, I lit the candle, and I kneeled, and I was praying, and I was crying. And eventually this little old lady walked in. She was holding this dog, and this little dog, and she didn't say anything to me. She walked over, she lit a candle, and then she kneeled in the only other kneeler next to me. And again, all I wanted was to confess my sins. But again, I didn't say anything to this woman. I actually started praying for her dog. I started praying for her. I thought maybe she needed some help. And that was like one of the first times I took the attention off me and put it on someone else. And she just looked over at me without saying anything at first. And she put her hand on my shoulder, and she said, "Would you like to confess your sins?" And I thought I was crying hard then, but boy, I started even crying harder, even when she said that to me. And she pulled out this little black book, and like a priest would, she started reading the thing, and she said, "You can confess your sins." And I unloaded, I dumped on her, and afterwards, she gave me a couple of, prayers to say, kind of like the penance or whatever. And she took this, and she went around her neck, and she took this thing called a scapular. And it's something that we get like First Holy Communion. And again, I was raised Catholic, but I don't claim to be religious. I'm just a spiritual guy. And that's it. But she took this off her neck, and she said, "I want to give this to you." She goes, "God wants you to have this." And I said, "I cannot take that kind of gift." And she said, "Well, it was my father's." She goes, "On his deathbed, he gave it to me, and I'm giving it to you. God wants you to have it." And I tried to deny it again, but she said, "No, you have to take it." And I took it. And as quickly as she was there, she was gone. She got up, she walked out, she bent the corner, and I waited maybe just a mere few seconds. And I got up, and I had to look around the corner, and she was gone. Now, I don't say that she was some apparition or anything like that. I think she was a real person, but that really shaped my faith. It really helped me understand that there was a higher power, a loving higher power that is there, and that what it told me was that no matter what the circumstances were, I felt that my higher power could move mountains to put someone in my path, if I needed it. And that was unbelievable for me. Now, I still had some major troubles after that, but that situation never left me. That experience never left me. And so ever since then, I've always felt that, when I pray and I talk to my higher power, God, he's listening. So that was a really powerful moment for me.
She gave you hope.
She gave me hope. She gave me hope. That's a perfect way to say it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And we need that. We need to know that we're supported. Yes,
absolutely.
from the invisible source, but also from human beings working through that. So you clean yourself up. You got
Yep.
I know you got children or
I've got 19 years sober now. Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Super, super. And you have family, right?
I do have a beautiful family. I have two daughters with a third on the way.
Congratulations.
And I live a life I feel second to none. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always loved business. I've had, some properties and some other businesses, but it's been hard to just continue to do business when I found out what I have found out. So, I've kind of dedicated myself. I make a fraction of what I used to make, and that's okay. Sometimes it is a little tough, but I don't care, because I do receive messages on a regular from people that I'm working with, patrons, clients, followers that have read the book or used the app or have had a reading with me or a session with me, and the amount of hope that they get, the amount of um, peace that they get is just, it's unmistakable, just amazing. And again, I'm not, I don't take credit for that. I always deflect and give it up to him, because I feel like, just like that lady in the grotto that that night, um that God was using her as an extension of him, I feel like, to help me. And hopefully that is how I'm being used at times. That's all I can ask for. So that's really what I'm trying to do, on a regular basis, if I can.
Good. Congratulations. Now, when did you get into the medium side of things and start studying clairvoyance? Was that before the paranormal stuff, during that
That's a great
investigation?
question. Yeah. So, right after I was capturing these recordings on my equipment, my early basic voice recorders and PSB 7, spirit box stuff out in the field, I ended up finding a medium that I wanted to, I didn't know much about mediumship or mediums. I didn't, I watched John Edwards and Crossing Over, and that to me was like the most amazing thing ever, and some Sylvia Brown. And, so those were some amazing people, I thought. But a friend of mine said, "Oh, there's this medium that, that I know, and you should work with her." So I invited her out to come with us out to one of our locations, a place that I already had recorded some stuff there and got some names. And I didn't tell her anything. I was kind of a skeptic with the mediumship. And so she comes out and she starts, getting names and things that I already had, known or picked up through the gear. And so working with her for maybe a couple months, not even, she said to my partner, Nikki, she said, Nikki, she said, "You're going to start picking up messages yourself." And Nikki was kind of like, "Yeah, okay, right." And one night it happened where, Nikki, I came home on I think it was around Christmas time, and Nikki, she says, "I feel a little different." I said, "What does that mean?" And she's like, I just feel like there's something going on. She goes, "Ask me about someone that that passed, that you've never talked to me about, or ask me about something." And I started asking her, and she was, dead on right. I mean, she was exactly, right. And so we would just kind of doing sessions together, just Nikki and I kind of sitting out front, sitting in our garage, just hanging out. And she's getting all these messages. And she says, she gets a message herself, and she says, "You're going to start getting stuff yourself." And I kind of balked at that. And just like it happened for her, it happened for me, where I felt different one night, and I felt like, there was something going on. Once I felt that, I saw it. I said, "Lead me in the right direction. You've been leading me in this direction all along. Lead me in the right direction." And that's when I found Deborah Lynn Katz, PhD. She has the International School of Clairvoyance, and she started out as a federal probation officer that just went to go get a meditation class, and saw that there was an entry level intuitive class for her to take, and she started taking it. So I found her, and I signed up with some courses with her, just because I felt like now I have this ability, but I don't know how to use it. I don't know exactly what to do with it, or exactly what's going on. And so one of the first calls I had with Deborah, she was amazing. She says, "All right," she goes, "I'm going to do something with you right now." She goes, "I'm going to give you a name, just a first name, and I'm not going to tell you anything else. And that's it. And for 30 minutes, I want you to just tell me what you get on this name." And that's a little nerve-wracking, because you don't know what you're getting, if it's right. She's not going to give me any feedback. She said, she goes, "I'm just going to stay quiet for 30 minutes, and you're going to tell me what you're getting." And she says the name Manny. That's all she says. And I'm like, oh, I see this young boy, maybe in his teens, I said, I see him riding like a quad, a four-wheeler around in the desert. Um, I see a sombrero. I see a guitar. I see him playing a guitar. I said, I feel like I see him smoking a joint. I said, this is all random stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what this means. I said, I feel like he's, of mixed ethnicity. Um, and so I gave her all these things. And then at the end of the she goes, all right, we're going to stop there. 30 minutes. She goes, we're going to stop there. And she goes, I just want to tell you, she goes, Manny is my son and he's not deceased. He's alive. And she goes, we live in the desert. He rides his quad, his four-wheeler all around. He's got this big sombrero hanging on his wall, and he sits there on his bed and he plays the guitar. And his father is Filipino and I'm white, she said. And she says, and I don't know if he's smoking weed yet, but she goes, maybe you told on him. She goes, but he's a good kid, so I'm not too worried about it. And it was just a really amazing moment because it was an undeniable moment that maybe it doesn't always work that way every single time because it's not an exact science, but that without a doubt proved to me that when I tune in, I could pick up very accurate information. So now 3,000 readings later, I've done just mediumship readings alone without any equipment or anything. And it's a remarkable experience to be able to, and I joke and I say that I've never done something so much and still not know what the heck I'm doing. Because every time I go to sit down and do a reading, there is this little human logical doubt of, is this going to still work? It's just like, I can't quantify it. I can't say now I'm a professional reader, even though there's experience there. And I could say I'm a trained medium, but it's still, I have days where I'm a little off or whatever, but, so yeah, so that in addition to doing the ITC, which you mentioned, instrumental transcommunication, which is using equipment to bring through the loved one. I've done over 500 box sessions for grieving parents, spouses, all walks of life. People, I have patrons like yourself that that are paying members. They take part in my group sessions, or they book a private reading or private session with me, and the messages are pretty powerful.
Let's talk about the box because
Sure.
not many people know what it is. And it's one thing to be capturing EVPs. I've done tons of that. It's a whole nother thing to say, I want to create an app in a computer program that people can use to connect with their own loved ones.
Yes.
Oh my God. So talk a little bit about that journey. And then
Yeah.
what the heck is
No.
I do have the app, by the way, even before I
Yeah, you
love you.
mentioned that in the email,
I
and I was
got it.
excited because and of course I can give you some tips on how to kind of, maximize your results with it. It's true. And I think I had sent you the presentation that I did at the IRVA. It was the SciFest 2023, and that was put on by the Monroe Institute and the International Remote Viewing Association. It was a presentation I gave in front of 220 people, and it was just an amazing experience to be there. But what's interesting, I tell this joke in that presentation that you're working on something crazy when other mediums and other psychics say what I'm doing is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, that's just really wild. And people have two kind of what's the word, reactions to what I do. It's either holy crap, it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen, or holy crap, this is fake. And I don't blame them. I have to deal with that kind of skepticism on a regular basis. And I feel like I've gotten better at dealing with it, but it is tough because this is different than just giving mediumship readings, or like you said, just capturing an EVP of a yes or a no or something in a whisper. What I'm doing is I'm giving spirit wordless sound, wordless human sound. So there's no words in it. It's all gibberish. It's reversed. It's slowed. It's chopped up into small 2-second increments, randomized. And so it's just human sound. And we give that to spirit to use in order for them to take that gibberish and form their own responses with. And I've been proving the legitimacy of it. And I give everyone the same tools for them to use. It's not like it's a proprietary box only that only I can work and only I can use. I'm giving everyone the opportunity. The app is free. The Hope Spirit Box is for iOS or Android. It is free for anyone to use. And there's 40,000 active users on it right now. And many people have sent me recordings of their loved ones that they've captured. And so, I can hear them getting direct responses themselves, not with, they don't need me to do that. Then I created the HSP Pro, which is the computer version, which is a little bit more advanced. That is a paid version. It's
But
a
not much.
membership.
You're not charging hundreds of dollars or anything.
No, it's $5 a month to
Right.
use the HSP Pro, and you can cancel anytime. So it's really just for your own research and your own experimentation. So, there's no risk. I mean, you can try it for 1 month, and if you don't want to do it anymore, you don't. But the app alone for free is still an amazing tool to use. But that's what it is. I mean, and what I've been able to capture with the help of my guides on the other side, there's an amazing team of souls on the other side that are working with me. I hear them coming through. The person that's getting the reading or doing the session with me, they have to tap into their own connection with their loved one. They've got the connection to the loved one, not me. So it's not like I can connect intuitively, but if I'm going to, reach one of your loved ones, you've got to be present. You've really got to be asking them to come through. And I send people a very brief 15-minute meditation for them to do before they do the session with me. And then that loved one on the other side has to put forth some effort and energy to really come through. And it's not easy, but in every session I do, I capture, really amazing responses. And I share an example of something in that presentation where I have this follower named Kimberly, and I have many examples like this, but this is one of the coolest ones. I always, share this one because it's so cool. Kimberly was this beautiful soul. She was intuitive herself, and she followed my work for a while. And then she had cancer, and she called me and she said, it's terminal. I'm not going to make it. And she goes, I really am going to give my information, or I'm going to have my family reach out to you when I pass, and I would love for you to reach me on the other side. And I said, of course I'll do that. I'll do that for free. I don't care. I'll do whatever I can. And so, many months later, her husband, Chris, contacted me and said, Kimberly passed, and she wanted me to contact you and wanted you to get a hold of her. And I said, all right. So I did a session on my own without Chris there. I just did a session asking for her to come through. She came through. She said, it was still a little tough emotionally for her, but that she was okay, and that she's love and light, and that she was confirming a lot of beautiful things. And it was wonderful. And I sent that recording to Chris, and he was blown away. But, he said, Josh, I hear the messages. It's really powerful, but he goes, don't be offended, please. He goes, how do I know it's her though? And I said, it's a great question, Chris. It's a great question. I said, I can't guarantee that every person I'm reaching is that person. All I can do is intuitively connect to them and then ask for them to come through the box and the equipment. And I said, he said, can I ask a validating question? And I said, sure. He goes, ask her what the term muskrat means. And I said, okay. So I fired up my boxes again, and I asked for her. I said, Kimberly, what does the term muskrat mean? Just, that's all I know. What's that term mean to you? And she said, it's in the back of my head. We had to shave my head. And that was it. 2 responses. And I tagged them, I captioned them, and I sent that back to Chris. And Chris, he sent me a text back, and he said it was perfect. Perfect response. And I said, well, I'm really glad. What does it mean though? What does that mean? And he said, well, towards the end, she was bedridden, and she was worried about the back of her head, her hair getting matted. So I'd have to lift her head, and I would comb her hair. And eventually we had to shave her head, and I would call her my little muskrat. And that was something between the two of them that only they knew. And, there was no doubt. And so I've captured many responses like that where someone may ask a validating question. Now, you can't spend the whole session just asking only validating questions. You kind of have to believe enough and really exchange love and exchange the communication. But people ask those questions, and I think it's a fair thing to do, because we have to believe, but we also need some evidence to believe sometimes. So really remarkable.
Yeah. So not just the app, and you actually have a physical box, right? When
Yeah, I
you
have a physical box that is and so the app and the program are using inspirations from that, but the app and the program have gone way further than the box now. It's kind of just really, it had the inspiration from the box, which was really great, but now it's about really utilizing the tools in the program, because not everyone is able to have a box or to build a box or to spend thousands of dollars in getting a box. So the app alone for free does what the box does and more. The program is an all-in-one station, and it's not easy for everyone to use. Some people say, well, all I'm hearing is gibberish. And I'm going, well, yeah, that's what the sound source is. So it's either a couple things. Either they're not coming through yet, because it takes a little bit of time to kind of, work it, take some focus, take some persistence and some connection. Or they're saying something and you're just not understanding it yet, because it's not as clear as you and I talking. But you can get the direct, yes, it's me, I'm here. The names will be said. What color is this? And they'll say the color. How many fingers am I holding up? I mean, they'll give you way more than that. But for someone that's a layman, that they're just kind of starting out, they're it may take a little bit of time to kind of work it, but anything that's worth it, takes a little bit of effort.
Yeah, I first heard about it from a mom who told me about it because she knew I had done tons of EVP work and I hadn't heard of it. So I'm like, well, I got to download this, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And she sent me a couple of recordings she had. And in truth, I couldn't hear what she heard.
Okay.
Now, the thing is, I know from all my EVP work that we have to use our own intuition with some. Some are loud and clear. You can hear the
Right.
yes and no. I mean, that's all real.
Right.
Some we have to use our intuition. And I would never tell a mom, I can't hear it. I would say, that's great, keep doing it. When we are grieving, and I'm sure you've dealt with loss as well, to be able to channel that energy into something constructive is amazing. And I also believe, Joshua, that when we head over to the other side, it's not like we're given a manual with all information in the universe. I think we need to learn how to do this. And
You are right.
like my 91-year-old grandmother, this might not be her deal, but a young man that I know that was big on electronics and always on his
You are
phone, it
100%.
might be his thing. You want to talk about some of that?
Yeah, that's very true. I ask for, the majority of the people I ask for are people's loved ones. Okay. But I also ask for well-known people. And I can't say that I know for sure that I've got these well-known people coming through, but I ask for people that I feel a connection to. I've asked for many people, Anthony Bourdain and John Candy. And I mean, I've asked for so many different people. And it is amazing how some people on the other side can use the stuff better than others, like you just said. And so some of the older people sometimes are a little bit slower to kind of get it working on the other side. Some of the younger people are, they work it pretty well. Some of the well-known entertainers or whatever, I feel like they've been able to kind of work it exceptionally well, I think. But I try to explain the process too when I'm, to the spirit, to the soul, as I'm doing it. Like, hey, I'm going to ask you a question and then I'm going to slide this gate open and let some sound come out and a little light's going to come on. That's when you want to, and sometimes it takes them a little bit of warm up to get it going. So yeah, that's very true. What you just said is very true. And I just keep on working at trying to improve it. What's cool about the program is that it's an ever evolving program for me that I can continue to do things to improve it. Maybe the box is kind of locked in where it's at, and I can't do too much to that anymore. But with the program, I can keep on finding ways to improve it. And so that's what we're doing, me and my developer. And we'll sit on the phone for hours and we'll listen to some feedback from other people and what I'm getting, feedback from the spirit saying, you need to put a light. Someone said, on the other side, you need to put a light there on the box. So I added a light so that every time when you slide the gate open, the minute you open it up, and that's how it works. It stays quiet, and the sound runs in the background where you can't hear it. So you pick a sound that would fit that loved one, like a man's voice or a woman's voice or whatever, and you have to focus. This is very, I talk about this in that presentation that I've worked with like BICS, the Bigelow Institute of Consciousness Studies. I've worked with some forensic audio experts. I've worked with, Deborah, I've worked with a number of other people, and I continue to look for other professional and other institutes to work with. I want to share this work with others. But a lot of people don't realize that in order for the equipment to work, you have to be tapping into the intuition. And so that's not very scientific to scientists. And so someone who's going to be very rigid, their results may vary from someone like you or I who know to use our intuitive ability. So if I focus on a loved one or a person, I see their face, I invite them in, I dialogue with them even before turning on an app or a program or a box. Then when I go to use the equipment, it will work better. So that's what I have found. And yeah, I mean, I think that's really, so we're just continuing to improve it. That's all I can say, I guess,
Yeah, it's good. Is it important, you think, that people take that 15 minutes, quiet their mind, talk to their loved one, get into that space? I personally do. Anytime I did EVP work, I'd always kind of like create space, create the energy, or visualize it.
Yeah, I mean, there are patrons that sometimes partake in the group sessions, and maybe they say they didn't have time to do my little meditation that I sent them, and it will still work because their loved one is still willing to come through. But I find that the results are not as strong. And so, the meditation I send people it's a brief 7-minute grounding where you ground yourself. You visualize grounding yourself to the earth and having like a grounding cord, and you send out any kind of residual crappy energy that you might have picked up from the world, and you call down the light through you, and you really center yourself. And then the second part of that meditation is walking into an astral room and inviting your loved one to come into the room with you, and envisioning seeing them there, giving them a hug, smelling them, hearing them, feeling them. I say, touch their face, give them a rose. There's a couple things that I have you do in that meditation. And many times people have an experience with that even before they even do the session with me. They're like, oh, I saw them, I had this great feeling with them. So it's almost like you can do that without even having to do a session with me. And I've sent that to people many times just to do when they can't afford a reading or something. I'll say, here, there's free options for you to do on your own. I don't need to make money off you. It's not about that. I don't make very much anyway. So it's just about helping you get an experience. And so, yes, it is important to really focus, take that time and focus and call them in before you do any other kind of work.
From all my 26 years studying the afterlife, I know that the top way people come through is through our imagination, through our memories, through our feelings. Yes. And It is the first thing that people will throw away as it's just my imagination. And through being a medium, yeah, that's how it works. That's what they use.
That's how it works.
What it is. So to trust, when you give them the meditation, that could be that, and keep working on it. I would always say when I did the EVP stuff, make a date with your loved ones. Okay, on Tuesday and Thursday, 7:00, I'm going to be here. We're going to do this.
Right.
And let them practice as well.
Right.
Keep a journal, right? Because the mind is going to want to tell you, That was your imagination.
I tell people write down these responses because we feel, we forget them, and our mind starts to kind of just like, discount them. What you've said is exactly right. Set dates, set times. I got to say, Pam Johnson, who is the one that, linked us up. I saw the interview that you did with her, and I said, hey, Pam, please hook me up with Sandra. She's great. And she did great. She messaged you, but she's got, soulmates in the afterlife. And she's got this great group where she can, she's also teaching people how to have this ongoing. Oh, getting a call. Hold on. Let me just hit decline. Can you hear me okay? It's all right?
Yeah.
Okay. She's teaching people how to have an ongoing relationship with their spouse or with their loved one on the other side. And I had been teaching people that and all of that same stuff already. And then to find out that she's kind of got this, this group, and she's doing that. She came to me and she got a session with her husband, Alan, on the other side. And Alan came through exceptionally well. He was great. Many of her other members that had spouses on the other side saw that session, and they came to me, and the things that they were able to say through, because I told her, I said, because of the work that you've done with these people and prepping them, it's made their sessions that much stronger when they came to me. One woman just recently, she did a session with me where she was asking me, she was asking for her husband, and she said, I feel like my husband is building a house for us on the other side to live in, and that sounds kind of, to anyone here on earth, that sounds a little wild, right? But we don't discount it because there's so many things that have been already validated. So anyway, so we're doing the session. I'm asking for him to come through the box, and at the end of the session, I offer people not just the session, but I offer a photography session, kind of like what Sonia Rinaldi does, which is just amazing what she's done. I mean, I saw that documentary that you were in with her, and so she's really cool. And so I do some stuff with water ITC, digital ITC, the matrixing of the cameras and stuff. So so I asked him, the husband, I said, she feels that there's a house that you're building on the other side. Can you confirm that? And he goes, yes, a big, lovely house. He says it through the box. And then right after that, I go to the water ITC. It's a bowl of water with a light aimed at it, and you have to agitate the water, and you invite them to come and show themselves, and you have to snap a number of pictures. And then it's, kind of, tedious to go back through, and you have to look through each picture and see. And a lot of times they show their faces. That's really what I've captured many faces of the loved one that we can validate with a picture. But this time I didn't capture his face. I didn't capture a face, but in the bowl of water, almost like a perfect house is shown with a roof, 2 stories, a porch. I mean, I'm telling you, it's architecture in a bowl of water. And I'll show you the picture when we're done, with the interview. I'll send it to you or email it to you so you can see it. It's one of the most remarkable pictures I've ever seen. So not only was he able to validate through the box audibly, yes, I'm building a big, lovely house. He was able to show a picture of a house with a roof and everything. It's just, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Crazy and great. Yes. And
It's
that's
great. It's great. Of course.
so somebody right now has probably listened or watched this, right? And as they're watching, they've already downloaded the app. I
Right.
guarantee you that.
Sure.
What advice would you have for people to it? Because to me, it took a little something to figure out like what's
It
happening.
does.
And
It's not a traditional thing.
I don't read instructions too well. I just want to dive in and play with it.
Yeah, no, I know. You're like
Oh,
anyone
yeah.
else that does that. We all don't, no, I totally get that. And I'm like that too. Um, the best thing I could say is this: definitely take that time, like we said, to focus beforehand, right? At least do that. Then sit quietly and pick out a voice that that there's a number of different, see if I can even just pull it up while I'm talking to you, but there's a number of different voice tracks that you can choose. So on the bottom of the app, there's a little lifeline thing, and you hit that, and it will bring you to the box. And then there's a select a bank. So you would select a bank, and there's a bunch of different gender tracks. So I'm just going to pick middle-aged male for right now. And I'm going to pick that. Okay. So you're going to want to hit record. So when you're ready, everything's pretty much all set up. You don't have to like set any settings or anything like that. Okay. But you want to record, because even though you may hear something in real time, you really want to record it so you can go back and listen to it or share it with others, or just you may miss it, but when you go back and listen, you're going to catch it. So I like to hit record, hit allow, and say, hello, hello, this is me. I'm sending you love. Can you hear me? And then stop. So that's it. And the length of time, and it sounded like something might have come through. I'm not going to go back and listen to it now, but it sounded like maybe someone's sitting here with me, listening with me, which happens a lot of times, you know. But when we're opening this gate, so we want to hit the record, you ask the question, nothing too long, something, you know, somewhat direct. And then you just want to slide this thing open for a second or two and then close it. And so there's a little bit of a delay. The sound will come out, and then you want to stop recording. Don't open this thing too long. Okay, so it's just a second or two, and then close it. And then eventually you can work your way up to kind of maybe opening it up just a tad longer and letting a little bit more sound come out. But that allows for just the right amount of sound that the spirit can use to form their own response. And you're hoping that they're only giving you a 2-3 word response, because anything longer can be a little tougher to make out at first if you're kind of getting started. And know that it's not going to maybe work at first. That you know, it may take a little bit of time for you to get it, for your loved one to get it, but it works. It works. Like, there's no question about it. If you read the reviews, some people will say, oh, I didn't get anything. But the majority of the people that left reviews are like, this is amazing. I'm getting direct responses with my name, saying, yes, I'm right here. There's no words in this thing. So if people are like, you know, there's not a single word, it's all gibberish. And it's the job we know now that it, you know, when, you know, people, I've always asked, you know, paranormal investigators, well, how do you think that PSB-7 or the radio spirit boxes work? And some have thought that, you know, they're plucking words from the broadcast and timing it up right, to give a response. And I said, no, I don't think that's what it is. And I did a lot more testing to figure that out, that no, they're taking the errant sound and forming their own responses with it. And that's how it's being done.
I believe that 100%. All the
Yeah.
EVP stuff I've done, that's totally what I believe. And there's no time, they say, on the other side. So what seems to us like a split second, to them, oh, they could have been working on it 20 minutes getting
Right.
that out.
Right.
An
I
example.
will say this in response to that. I will say that um, I have had times where I'm late to doing a session, and they'll say, we've been waiting here for you, or, you know, you're late. And I thought that was interesting, because as I understand that there really is no time on the other side, I think when they're interacting with us, they have to interact with time. It's because, so I've had them say, you know, well, he waited and he left, or something like that, or, you know, I like, why haven't we spoken a while? You know, someone I've asked for a while ago, and then I've asked for, or I'll ask for them again. They'll say like, you know, it's been a while or something. So I don't know exactly what the relativity is as far as the time goes, but I think that there's some kind of interaction with time still on some level.
Yeah. And we have to remember our people, they still have their personality.
They
You know,
do.
we have to be polite, right? You know, this is a big thing, and they're really working hard to work with
They
us.
are. They
You know, be
are. Yeah.
respectful of somebody's time who's alive, right? So we got to
Right.
take
Same thing. Right.
the same way. Joshua, tell us a little bit about your book.
So Finding Hope in the Afterlife, it's sitting right behind me. It's available on Amazon, and it's not on audiobook, but it's on, Kindle and all that stuff and hard copy. And the first part of it really is my personal story, the nitty gritty of it. I really hold nothing back. I mean, I share a lot of difficult, I don't say embarrassing, but just very tough moments that I was very vulnerable in sharing that. I wanted to do that. I did, and but then I really break down a lot of other things. I break down the definitive facts that I have found from doing this work, not the speculative stuff, just on my beliefs, about the religion, about how some of it can also counter what we're finding. And I talk about, I go through so much in this thing. I mean, there were so many things that I didn't know if I was going to be able to put in there. And I almost thought, oh, that's too heavy or that's too crazy to talk about. And I almost would go past it and not put it in. But I felt the guides and the divine help bring me back to that point and saying, no, that needs to go in there, or whatever this was. My personal relationship with Jesus Christ, which is not a religious thing. This is not, this is not about religion at all. I talk about the other aspects of intuitive ability. I talk about the scientific work. I mean, I've done experiments in PK, in moving things, with my mind. I mean, that's pretty awesome stuff. I've been able to successfully do that. I've done astral projection. I mean, I did an experiment where I asked 3 people on 3 separate occasions. I said, I'm going to visit you at night in spirit, that before you go to bed, text me and let me know you're going to sleep, and I'm going to go and meditate, and I'm going to leave my body in astral projection, and I'm going to go into your home, and I'm going to, and give me permission to do that. I'm not doing it against, your, and I said, I'm going to just, tap or touch a part of your body. And in the morning, when you wake up, it's like a dream. You're going to just know if it worked well. If it worked, I don't know if it will work. I said, but if it does, you'll wake up and you'll just know exactly where it was and what happened. Just text me. And the first person I did this to, it was a woman, a friend of mine. It was actually a client that I helped her with an investigation. And I go into her house. So I leave my body and I see above my house, and I fly like, in a second, and I go to her front yard and I go in her house, and it seemed like her dog noticed when I came in, which is interesting. And I go into her bedroom and I see her right ankle, and I see that there's a tattoo there, which I did not know she had. I couldn't tell what the tattoo was because it was still kind of a little blurry, but I tapped her on the tattoo on the right ankle, and the next morning she woke up, she goes, my right calf, my right ankle. And I did it 2 more times, but the last guy I did, and it worked all 3 times. But the last person was a friend of mine, and his right arm was hanging off his bed. And this is like one of my best friends, and so I grabbed his wrist and I really squeezed it, not to hurt him, but like he's like one of my buddies, so we always played around and joked around. But I really kind of squeezed his wrist to see if anything could happen. And the next morning, he woke up and he sent me a picture of his wrist. There was a red mark. And so we've heard how, like, when people can go into like a haunted place or something, and they'll say, like, I've got scratched, or I got a mark or something, And this isn't the scary one, but it was like it's like you could tell that is what's happening. That someone can still affect from the other side, affect this environment, and that experiment really proved that. So there was a number of other things that I worked on that I talk about in the book, and because I really wanted to dive into all aspects of different modalities and different intuition.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. Yeah, if people can turn lights on and off and
Right,
change the station, there's so many things that we can do.
right.
Uh, I don't know how easy it is. We'll know once we get there by manipulating it. Why not? And, I've been studying a lot and talking to our friends at IONS, the Institute for Noetic Sciences there. about our consciousness being outside of our body. So yeah, it's not just when we die. I mean, it's like what's possible when we're human.
Right.
And Joshua, I just want to thank you for what you have put in the book, because nobody wants to learn from a person that seems perfect. They don't.
Oh,
We want to know somebody's been in the trenches, they've had it tough, and then here's where we're at. And your life isn't perfect. My life isn't perfect, but we found our passion. And better than finding passion is being of service. And I think anytime we set our eyes on making a difference with another person or people, we can't go wrong, whatever
great.
that is. So I really want to thank you for just being real.
And I don't mean to go on, but I think what you're saying is exactly the truth. I'm not knocking anyone, but if I hear someone talking like they've mastered life, they have no more fear, they're like floating on air. God bless you. That's great. If you have reached that level, I think that's awesome. But I am still I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. There's no question about that. But I'm a flawed individual, and I don't want to act like I've got it figured out. I still have doubts. I still get angry sometimes. I still have moments that, I'm very human in that sense. And so I'm trying to figure out things. I'm trying to understand things. And I think it's important that I share that vulnerability with you, that I don't have all this thing figured out. And then I have, and, there's a famous line in Red Hot Chili Pepper song. It's like, the more I see, the less I know, the more I'd like to let it go. And that's really an amazing line, because it's like, as I get older, I feel like it's the less I know. It's really not. I think it's just a little bit more, maybe humility, I'm hoping, creeping in, and that's all I'm trying to do is gain a little bit more humility, because I'm like you said, I'm a flawed individual just trying to be, sinner or saint. I am his child. And if I can remember that at all times, then I'm in a good space.
Yes, you are. Now, on my show here, we mainly talk about the afterlife, but I know you've got the pretty big YouTube channel, Hope Paranormal.
Right.
And for people that are interested in delving further into the paranormal realm, I wholeheartedly suggest your website, hopeparanormal.com, but also following you on YouTube. You've had some interesting interviews and you got a lot going on there, young man.
Thank you. Thank you. It used to be more paranormal-ish, I think, when I first started out. Now it's just more, I still do a paranormal investigation. I hold live events where I'll do a 3-day live event where the first day we'll do a little investigation at a location. The second day I'll give a presentation on the stuff that I found. And then the third day I'll give a gallery group session for anyone that's in attendance. So it's kind of this afterlife experience that I like to do. But the majority of the sessions I'm doing are more, they're advanced instrumental transcommunication sessions. So it's not as much paranormal anymore. It kind of used to, like, HOPE is an acronym. It used to be for Helpers of Paranormal Entities. But I think it's evolved now more into helping other people evolve. That's really what it feels like for me now. But it's been a 10-year period of kind of evolving to that.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
it. Well, our time is coming to an end. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we go our separate ways?
No, just that I have to say that I loved seeing you in that documentary with Sonia Rinaldi. I think that was amazing, and the work that she's doing, and the interviews that you're doing, I think is fantastic. I think I was just joined into the Ions group with Sean Lether, I think his name is, right? Yeah. And so, I hope to work with more and share more about this, but I thank you for the work that you're doing and spreading this around. So I think it's just awesome. So thank you.
You're welcome. I can't help but share what I love and share people that I love. And you're just real, you know,
Thank you.
real. And I think, I mean, if we can remember when the first cell phones came out, how big and clunky they were, and look what we
Yep.
have now. Same thing with your spirit box. You just don't know how that's going to evolve and who may also get involved and create. And it just could be the start of something really,
Exciting.
really special.
Thank
Really
you.
special. So thank
I'm
you for
looking
that.
forward to it.
Yeah, so I want to thank Joshua for being our guest today and also for you, our listener or our viewer. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Be sure to check out Joshua's website at hopeparanormal.com. And I'm sure you have some kind of mobile device. Just search and download for the Hope Spirit Box and start playing and keep us posted what happens. So, also as a reminder, everything I offer is at we-don't-die.com. You can click on past episodes, join our free Sunday gathering with medium demonstration included. Happens 2 o'clock New York time every single Sunday. We have our medium classes. We have just a lot of stuff there. So check out we-don't-die.com. So in closing, I'm Sandra Champlain. I've been your host on We Don't Die Radio. I do believe that life is an education for the soul and that your life here on earth is important. And looking at Joshua, seeing his shirt, hearing the words, the common denominator is hope. We need it. The afterlife is real. It is really hard to be a human being, but there is so much more to you than meets the eye. There really is, and your loved ones are around. So thank you for listening or for watching, and we'll see you again soon.